3, 2, 1. Hello, Internet. It feels like I haven't talked to you in a very long time. We're coming back from a shaving episode that Chaim was good enough to pre-record and load up for Thanksgiving, and I think Paul and me did not see it because we both have beards. Anyway, I'm Justin Fried.
Well, hold on. You're remember, it's No Shave November and then December beard.
Okay. Thank you, Chaim. I know, and it's curing cancer. Every follicle in my face is curing a child of cancer. Okay. All right. I am Justin Fried. This is the Tech Podcast inThirty. I'm going to bet this is episode 172. Does that sound about right? Anyway, Chaim.
I don't know, but there's a more important number. Do you know what today is, Justin?
Chaim, are you 30 years old today? Are you? Is that right?
Oh, yes, I am 30 years old.
What should we do, Paul? Should we give him a round of applause?
Happy birthday, Chaim.
Happy birthday, Chaim. It's time for you to have some time with cake. I don't know. Thank you, Chaim.
So yes, I am 30 years old.
So it was you did your birthday with inThirty last year, right?
I'm sure I did. I mean, it's either you or with Tom or somebody. So
okay. So this is good, Chaim. You get to celebrate you're getting old, Chaim. You're
my third decade of life.
You're okay. So this is inThirty, and Chaim time is 30. So this is a very special episode indeed. And you're right, that is a more important number than the episode number. Okay, that's Chaim Cohen of HaimTime.com, who's now 30 years old. Paul N. Shapiro of SearchWilderness.com, which apparently recently switched web hosts. You're not quite 30, Paul, but you can hang with the big boys, right? That's me.
Paul's our go-to young guy when we have a question about those youngins.
That's true, Paul. How do you feel being positioned as like you're the adolescent voice?
It's interesting.
And
I'll take it.
All right, yeah. You should always, it's always better to be the youngest person in the room rather than the oldest. I think we can all agree on that, right?
You could always say, "Look, I wasn't around. I wasn't alive for that moment," to make people really feel bad.
I wasn't alive for that. Yeah, I mean, okay, I wasn't alive for the launching of Apollo 13, for instance.
I mean, here's this: people under 30 have never used a card catalog.
Yeah.
In the library?
Yeah.
That's not true.
You've used a card catalog?
Yes.
Really? I don't believe that.
We're not talking about using a card catalog in the game Myst to like beat a puzzle. We're talking about an actual physical card catalog.
Yeah, Dewey Decimal System.
No, we're not talking about that. That's easy. We're talking about physical cards in the card catalog.
Yeah, physical cards. I remember cards.
All right, what is the Dewey Decimal Code for autobiography? Go.
900.
I think it's 921 and 920 is biography. Does that sound right to anyone?
I said 900, so...
All right, I mean, you and I are in the same ballpark, huh? And Paul?
I have no clue.
Well, I will tell you, it's in the back of the Randolph Public Library. It was in the back. So you walk through the doors, and then you walk through the other doors.
Boring.
And you went left, and it was in the back there.
Chaim, you are so old. I'm
Slumdog Millionairing it.
Okay. All right, good. Okay. All right, so Chaim, what are we talking about? We're talking about Google today on our X-numbered episode of the show, Chaim's 30th birthday episode. We're talking about Google. I think that's appropriate.
So there was a Google Plus war the other day. Chris Messina, who is a famous Googler, he is the inventor of the hashtag. So if you don't want to hashtag cool guy, he's the one. Now the question is, what's the official name for the punctuation symbol that represents the hashtag?
It's not the pound.
No. Octothorpe. Paul gets it. So he invented the idea of a hashtag. But either way, he was also on the Google Plus development team, and he penned this really long thing on Medium, which apparently is the go-to when people want to complain about stuff.
No, it's the go-to for long form. They just made a nice template to throw long form content into it. It has block quotes and it scrolls really nicely. It's not for complaining, huh?
Well, I mean, all the articles I read are people complaining. But anyway, so he's there saying that he used the more delete expletive, but he screwed up.
He used did you catch that? He used a delete expletive. What was it?
It doesn't start with F or rhyme with fire truck.
Okay.
Okay, so he's complaining about how he messed up. The whole thing is this boondoggle, and Google should cut their losses. And he goes through.
Does he take responsibility for it?
He does, because he was on the team, and he goes, "I was wrong."
And who's your?
What's he wrong about? What's wrong with Google Plus?
Well, I'm going to get to that. So,
Wait,
Mike
but
Elgan.
who's your Vinga Dutra? Is he the fellow that jumped ship a couple of months ago?
Yes, well, Vic was senior vice president and basically the founder of Google Plus. But his team, which included Chris Messina, was the actual people who developed a lot of the features and thought this was how it was going to go. And whether you believe that Google was all in with Google Plus or not, they look like they were all in, and then recently they started to dial it back.
Okay, before we go further, Paul, at an SEO level, does Google Plus even get a notch on the scale? I mean, or do people just completely ignore it?
I mean, I feel like a large amount of people that are on Google Plus are marketers and SEOs because it was, presented as sort of a very good platform for that. And to some extent that's still true. I mean, the Google authorship images was part of that, and that's been since removed. But all sorts of personalized search results is still affected by Google Plus usage and the +1 button.
So it seems like Google Plus is like the inside baseball social network. I mean, if you have a new business that is not digital based, okay, a pizzeria. I mean, how much traffic do they get for your Google Plus? I mean, Google has every incentive to put those results really high, but does it work? I mean, do you recommend it that people invest a lot of time in Google Plus versus Facebook or Twitter?
I think it depends on the industry. It varies drastically by industry. Like the photography industry, I would say, should be on Google Plus. Local businesses should do some sort of investment just because of the Google local integration. But
well, the problem is, it's not that people don't like Google Plus; is that it's not that they're ambivalent to it. They just hate it. They just come out and say this is a ghost town. Why would we do this? Instead of saying, well, make a Google Plus page. We'll post something once a month. Like, who really cares? Instead, they're like the Republicans with President Obama. It's like we can't agree on how much we hate it.
I'll tell you just from like a marketing perspective. Can't believe how many times I've said, make a Google Plus page, and they're like, why the hell would we make a Google Plus page? Like, everyone else is already on Facebook, everyone else is already on Twitter. It's just, I'm putting money into something where people aren't even there.
It's an afterthought. But Chaim, I thought we weren't allowed to use the R&D words on but okay, so we have two guys that have jumped ship, at least in a high-profile way. And Chris Messina then goes ahead and does a point-by-point takedown of the history of the network and also the current problems, right?
Well, yeah, and Mike Elgan paraphrases his points in a bulleted, nice Google Plus post. I mean, if you want to do it like that. And
that's irony for you, Chaim.
What?
That's irony for you. Okay.
I know, but if you look at, Mike Elgan is famous for, I don't want to say, for being that quote unquote maverick on that side. So I want to go through the points. So the first point is, dear Chris, you can't figure out what Google Plus is for, and he goes on to say, who cares what it's for? You put something, people are using it. What's the difference? Like, who really cares? What's the point of the internet? What's the point of paper? What are TV, radio, and books for? It's just this is from Mike Elgan. It's who cares what it's for? If people are using it, use it. If it was just to aggregate the comments that you post on Google properties, then so be it. But it's more of a social network.
So, what the underlying point of that line of thought is that there is a win or lose mentality about, life in general in a lot of ways, but particularly about social networks. And between Google and Facebook and Twitter, there are winners and losers. And the bottom line is that Google it comes across as a loser here because it doesn't compete numbers-wise with Facebook. That's what we're talking about, right?
Well, that's the question with numbers. What number do you want to believe? Do you want to believe everyone who has a Gmail address or a YouTube account has a Google Plus page, or do you want to talk about active daily users? Because you go with the former, it blows Facebook out of the water. If you go with the latter, Facebook completely crushes Google Plus.
You know, going with the former and then polling people on the street about what social network they use is going to make the former metric look ridiculous, right? I mean, first of all, let me just put it to, there's something that people don't often think about. How many people have multiple Gmail addresses? Tons.
I mean, most people.
You know, I don't know that most people have multiple Gmail addresses, but tons do. So right away, there's a problem with the numbers. But just at an anecdotal level, people don't even know what Google Plus is, and being late to the game is not enough of an explanation. But what is the most significant thing about the criticism? Is it that it came from a former guy who built it, or is that the criticism is really is right?
I think the more the criticism is they sunk all this money into, and it's just like this complete and utter failure.
Now, when we call it a failure, maybe it's a failure numbers-wise, but when we look at certain features, like if you get rid of the Google Plus overarching brand, okay, or if you get rid of the nature of it the notion of it as a social network, it fares much better because look at the features that it has that are useful. Hangouts is really pretty awesome. We've been doing, I mean, our show is awesome, so if we're using Hangouts, it's got to be awesome. The Photos feature is the mistake that Google tried to do a social network instead of really good video chat and really good pictures, and they just, it's like, oh, my neighbors just bought a Porsche. I need a Porsche. Well, no, you got a nice BMW. I don't know.
Well, look, the annoying part is I think people are turned off by Google Plus and the whole system, and therefore they don't know the features. If there was a way to decouple all that and say Google Plus is the chat, not the Hangouts, but the social posting area, that's fine. YouTube is the videos, and you have Photos is photos and all that other stuff.
Isn't that exactly what Google doesn't do? YouTube is now linked with Google Plus comments. Photos.
Well, that was the next point. The next point was that was a big Ondusha thing.
All of the features, which are kind of good or really good on their own, when you put them into the context of a social network, it falls apart and it looks flimsy, right? Like YouTube is pretty awesome if you want to share a video, but you don't want to do that under the guise of Google Plus. And I think that Google, especially with the photos, made mistakes because if you want to search your own photos, you have to get around Google Plus because the first thing it wants to do is search community photos. Like if I want to search community photos, I'll go to google.com/images, right? I don't.
Yeah. Look, I wish that at the top they had photos and Hangouts and video chat instead of Google Plus, and then you had to click from there because people don't know what that bell is for. People don't know, and I think they see it and they either leave the notification up there, or once they see it, they click on it, see whatever it is, and go away.
Now, is part of like the pain of this story that Google tried to pull like page views and time spent on site away from Facebook and is losing that battle. And if they had not tried to do that, and if they had just focused on making the best pictures app and the best video web app and the best Hangouts app, that they wouldn't have wasted time on the other stuff and all the other smaller products.
I think you're talking to the second point from Mike Elgan. Can't tell if Google is worried about Facebook, Snapchat, or Pinterest. I mean, basically he's saying that Chris Messina is saying that is Google worried about those competitors? And the answer is no, I don't think so. So I think it's they're going to figure out this umbrella of all these apps working together. They don't really care if they compete. If they really cared, they would have made it better. They would have put ads in it. They would have really churned up the social signals. They're doing this almost as a service, it feels like.
Well, a service to who? I mean, at some point they can flip the switch and try to monetize it, but like that's part of the tension here. Like we don't even know how Google Plus is being monetized. But maybe it speaks to just a bigger issue, which is that Google's, 90% of their money in reality comes from AdWords, right? I mean, that's really what pays the bills, and that includes video ads on YouTube. So it seems like everything else they do is either like, what is it? It's all pro bono for the internet. No, I mean, like it makes the products that aren't that seem a little wacky sometimes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those. What are we worried about? So Google put out a mediocre product. They put out mediocre products all the time. The problem with it is that it's surrounded by really good products that no one's going to see the light of day. I had a question today that I was going to bring up. How come all Android people, a lot of Android people use Hangouts, but all iOS people use iMessage? Why can't they coexist?
Well, I mean, I don't know that that's true. I mean, it seems to me that the siloing of data, or the siloing of services to platforms, it works, and it doesn't always work to the advantage of necessarily of the company that's doing the siloing. It also works for users, and like there's just there are people that are platform agnostic in the most fundamental way, that they just care about the text going through. They don't care if it was iMessage. They don't care if it was SMS. They don't even really care if it was Hangouts, as long as it's 100% fluid.
Well, that's me. I don't care which way, as long as I get the message. But when you tell people, like I tell people when we play Ingress, you have to use Hangouts. And they push back, like, why? And I go, well, it's a Google game. It's everything about it screams Google, and it was developed for Android first. Why can't you use Hangouts? And they give a million different responses, and it boils down to they just don't want to.
Well, we're gonna get into an issue that we've gotten into 1,000 times.
Yeah, so.
But Chaim, if you on your birthday, your special 30th birthday inThirty, what is the? Why don't we go to the topic that caused you to title the episode what you did?
Well, I mean, do we care about the rest of this?
Well, you want to go? Where are we at on time?
We're halfway.
All right. I mean, then run us through it. Do your
well, it just basically it goes back to why do we have to complain about another social network? The people that don't want to use it are not using it. The people who do want to use it get some value out of it. I'm one that likes it. I think you get a lot more communication, you get a lot more helpful people, and you get a lot less riffraff. But if you don't want to use it, I'm not going to force people to use it. I've been trying for years, and it doesn't happen.
Like people who like fast food burgers, they won't go to McDonald's or Burger King. No, they've got to go to Sonic. It's like, it's the Snapple of social networks. Now, I don't drink any sodas. Actually, I don't drink any sugared sodas. But I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, it's the third one, and if you really like it, you really like it. I mean, I see the people that post to Google Plus, and I know that their posts would not fare as well on Facebook because it is inside baseball, and it's morphed into something that is almost like it is the Google social network for people who really like Google and are not ambivalent towards Google or agnostic to Google that don't really like it.
I mean, it's fair enough. I just see it as like it, use it. If you don't like it, come on, don't complain about it. It's like the Mac people. If you like a Mac, you buy a Mac. If you don't like a Mac, you don't buy a Mac. But you shouldn't complain about someone else's choice.
It's that people see the opportunity cost to making Google Plus, and they think to themselves, wow, my free photos experience on Android would be better if Google wasn't so wrapped up in this ridiculous attempt to unseat Facebook. I think that's how they see it, honestly.
Well, let's move on. I think Paul's finally coming back in. Paul's having epic failures. The title of the episode is Click Here if Human. And what that means is Google yesterday announced that they're trying to redesign the idea behind the captcha. And if they can't tell you're human, they're going to ask you if you're human and then do something else.
CAPTCHA stands for what now?
I don't know. Paul would probably know better what a CAPTCHA stands for. But if you don't know what a CAPTCHA is, Paul, do you know what a CAPTCHA is?
I have no idea. I know what it is. I don't know what the acronym is.
Computer-assisted pattern to something.
Autonomy? Either way, I mean, somebody will look it up hopefully in the next 15 minutes. But basically, they give you this gibberish, and people complain because, for the most part, we couldn't read it. And the people who couldn't read it were like, damn it, I'm human, let me in. And the robots were just getting better and better and better at it. I keep on telling my students, if you can find a way to break CAPTCHAs, you will be a millionaire.
Yeah.
You will be very rich.
Sweat farms in India of people typing in CAPTCHAs.
And so, which is not work. I mean, all it does is bother real people, and it barely hinders the bots. So Google found a way, based on traffic patterns, to say if they can tell you're human, they're not going to bother you, or they're going to make you click a checkbox. If they can't tell, then they're going to ask you to name the picture, a simple math question, or whatever else.
Okay, so my opinion is that, you know, they do say that like something like 98% of the software is able to break the captcha. I think there's going to be a lot more bots breaking these captchas, and people, there's going to be a lot more attempts by bots. So the overall number of attempts by bots is going to increase. So it not necessarily a shift in percentage, but there's just going to be an overall increase of people even bothering to try to crack it.
I mean, do you think because Google pushed this out yesterday, I think they're ready to go with this. I believe the engineers.
Because what it looks like is, wow, Google is so smart that now they can tell if you're a human or not just by a checkbox. And what doesn't get like talked about or thought about with that kind of headline is that there are a billion other signals that Google has to tell whether or not you're human. If they know your browsing history and they see, let's just say they know that at midnight you open an incognito window for half an hour, and then you're not on the internet anymore until 7 a.m. when you check your work email, and that is your trend for weeks at a time. If you try to open up a new Gmail account and you click a box, they damn well know that you are a human. If you're on an Android device that they have validated that is associated with a Verizon account, well, and it's an American account, like they can figure out that you're not a bot, right?
Well, if you're signed into Gmail, I mean,
I didn't realize they were doing that type of thing.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
Well, no, well, I'm sure they are. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to figure out. They're saying, where did you come from?
I thought it was just a checkbox, literally.
No.
It is just a checkbox. But the idea, I think, is that checkbox is only presented to you as an option to prove you're human if a billion other signals have already been met. Right? Like if you
yes, exactly.
If you have searches, if you've searched for oil changes for Nissan Sentras and flip-flops that go with Dockers and the best way to cook tortellini, right? And then you try to you make a new YouTube account. Well, okay, you're probably a human being, right? Who likes tortellini and
so. I mean, why not just? I think this sounds like it depends a lot on using Google services. So that's one aspect of it. So what's stopping a bot from using Google services?
Well, because you have to first create an account. Well, I mean, we don't know what you're necessarily doing.
The thing is, I tweeted to both of you that ridiculous Twitter account. Did either of you look at that Twitter account?
Yeah, I didn't understand it.
Okay. Because the Twitter account is completely inscrutable, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, they'll take a quote of they'll take 8 words from a Lady Gaga tweet, take 2 from a Tom Hanks tweet, and then put a picture of Mother Teresa from Wikipedia, and that will be their tweet. Okay, and then they will they'll take a quote from an Eminem song, and that'll be its next tweet. And
that's what Horse ebook did. That was the famous Horse_ebooks Twitter account forever and ever until I blocked it. It was just randomly taking words that sort of made sense and tweeted it, and some of them were funny and hit.
Okay, well so here the question is, where do you get the content from? If you're going to go so far as to generate a Twitter account like that to get around, I thought there was something trying to get around spam or a performance art piece on Twitter, right? But if you're going to go through the process of making a search for tortellini because you're going to Twitter first, or let's just say you take the top trends on Twitter and you search for those. First of all, I think Google's AdWords bot sensors might not be good enough. They might be getting paid for clicks on ads or impressions on their sites or something like that. I don't know. But they still up the ante on bots, right?
Do you think that this would stop the captcha breakers in India?
It would be more likely to than just a picture of some numbers on a house from Google Maps, from Google Street View.
Maybe.
Well, that's the question. The question is, they're trying. Look, I hate captchas, and I mean, I can read them. Imagine the people that can't read them, and you have to try 3 and 4 times to break it. and now whatever they have. So if you're using Chrome or whatever it is, they figure it out.
You read them 100% of the time?
I'm not 100%.
That's like a superpower.
I'm 30%. The ones that are all like cursive looking, like all like they're on acid or something, like all of a sudden, like, you know.
But again, it's like they're trying to find a way. So for the time being now, whatever the spam bots are trying to figure out this algorithm that Google has. They'll figure it out. Google will change it. Paul will report on it as his SEO skills allow him, and we're going to play this cat and mouse game. But either way, you go from there, that may create a little more spam in the short run, but I think it'll end up killing it in the long run.
Chaim, where are we on time?
We're almost done. We have like 3 minutes left.
You know the reason I think I'm so good at telling how far we are into the episode is because I just take cues from Chaim. So you heard those that last trailing off sentence of his? That was his way of saying that the show is...
No. You were just so good at knowing exactly what 5 minutes was. It was unbelievable.
All right. Well, I was trying to do something there. So Google now, I was thinking about it. I got a new computer. I got a new iPhone. And just out of principle, not really because it's functionally so much better or anything, I have started using Mail.app and Mailbox instead of just Gmail in a web browser. I've started using Safari on my laptop and on my phone. I'm going to push a little bit into iCloud. I open spreadsheets all the time. It's kind of annoying to have to open a new tab in Chrome. I'd rather do it in Numbers. And because I thought about it, almost everything I do on the web is touched by Google. I use Google DNS at a lot of the work sites that I have. So even if I don't think I'm touching Google, somehow they're touching me. And I think that when you look at Google+, this all-encompassing thing and organizing all of the world's information, it comes down to trying when you're a generalist, you can't specialize in any one thing and be the best at it. And I think that's where Google is going. And they're not broken up Ma Bell style. They ought to break up themselves. I think that Google advertising, it should be one thing, and then the Google Apps products another thing, Android another thing. It's not always best to have everything under one overall.
That's how it is, though. What are you talking about?
The what?
That's what it is. They're essentially different companies.
I don't think so at all. I think
YouTube is YouTube is different. You have to remember, YouTube is located not in Mountain View, it's located in Los Angeles. They're separate divisions, they're being run differently. But look, anyway, but the idea is to share the signals. But I think I agree with both of you. Justin, in the fact that, yeah, they're all under one roof, but Paul more because I think they are run as different companies, and the signals are getting sent, and they're allowed to share in data, but they're doing things individually.
So then the competition then that's absent that could make YouTube better, because there's no really big YouTube competitor. Vimeo does not count, right?
Well, it does count, but not really.
Okay, but I mean, so they have the fact that that these huge projects are bankrolled by Google, who has effectively unlimited pockets, maybe isn't best for Google overall. Even. That is the question. So we'll see.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're running short on time.
All right. But
the idea is let's see what happens. Because look, the EU is trying to sue Google into breaking up, just like we sued Microsoft back in the early '90s. I don't know.
Eric Schmidt bobbing back and forth on a chair during a deposition, acting like he has Asperger's syndrome. Who doesn't want to see that? We want to see this.
Well, the problem is that the EU is doing some pretty nasty things, but let's see. Look, Google's a smart company. They didn't become this big because they hit a few buttons. They knew what they were doing.
That's true. They did not just hit a few buttons and change Alta Vista into the world's best search engine. Okay, so this will go down in history as Chaim's 30th birthday in 30. Happy birthday, Chaim.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.